Hi class. So I'm going to be doing a video today on quote sandwiching. So this is a handout that I've sent out before, and I just wanted to go over it to make sure that there wasn't any confusion on how to use this technique. So the whole idea here is that we all use evidence in whatever paper we're writing, and so we want to make sure to integrate that information as effectively as possible. Now, not to get too confusing, but this technique could be used for summary, meaning that if you do a summary of something, you actually kind of do the same thing where you do a lead-in, the summary of whatever it is, and then some sort of analysis or connecting back to our thesis. So, for the sake of argument, today we're just going to be focusing on quotes since that's normally what most of us use. So, let me go over this the first part of the quote sandwich to help you kind of figure out how to use it. So the first part is called a lead-in. So I took this from a textbook called Adios Drunken White, which, and this is going to create a big mess because I forgot to grab it before, is over here. I like this textbook. We're not using it in class, obviously, because this is not a literature textbook. This is a writing handbook textbook. I know the author. He was chair of a college I worked at a long time ago. Anyway, it's a cheap book. It's a nice writing handbook, and they have lots of cool ideas. Quote sandwiching is not their idea. It's something that's kind of out there, and if you Google search it, you'll see tons of different articles about quote sandwiching. The whole idea is it's just a way to introduce evidence and integrate evidence. So let me talk about lead-ins. So a lead-in is the part of the quote sandwich that tells the reader how to read the quote. And I'm taking this from the second page of the handout that I gave you. If you see, it says, the lead-in functions to characterize the tone, providing the audience with direction about how to read the upcoming quoted passage. So the lead-in provides context to the reader. So if you want to tell us like how to read the source or why the source is credible or who the author is, like providing the title, the author, the genre that you're taking from, these are all things you can do in your context or your lead-in is provide context to the reader. So I personally think that the best types of lead-ins not only tell us how to read the particular passage, but tell us why or preview the author's sort of credibility, right? So if you say something like, Professor X at Purdue University argues vehemently that ... the verbs and adverbs we're using are very descriptive in that particular lead-in because they're telling the reader how to read this certain passage, what sort of tone the author in the quoted passage is taking. And it also gives us a sense of credibility by the fact that this person is a professor at Purdue, okay? So above all though, like just fundamentally, at the basic level, you know, that's why they want you to, you need to just tell us how to read the quote. That's why in the handout they want you to avoid those neutral verbs. So says, like I can say a lot of things, but the tone in which I use or say it is really important, right? Like if I told someone, go get me that coffee, right? I can say it very politely, like, you know, go get me that coffee, versus like, go get me that coffee, like yelling at them, right? And that would totally shift how you read that line, go get me that coffee. What is the author, how is the author saying it? What's their tone, right? And so that's why here they want us to use descriptive verbs like decries, argues, something like this. So that's basically the lead-in, and the example they gave you about Hamlet is just showing you how two different lead-ins could tell you how to read the quote in different ways. Now, the next part of the quote sandwich is obviously the quote. This part I think is pretty self-explanatory. The part underneath it, the follow-up part, that's where things might get a little tricky. So in quote sandwiching, the main thing that we need to do is what the authors call backing up. Backing up means that you are explaining or connecting the quote to the point you are trying to make, either to your topic sentence or to your thesis, or both, perhaps, because they should be, almost one and the same in a sense. So that the backup, as they say, connecting a quoted passage from a primary or secondary source to an idea, thesis, claim, or argument, right, or topic sentence, which is a claim. Anyway, so the whole point there, most of you, 99.9% of the time, maybe less actually, more like 90, are going to be doing the backing up after the quote, where you're explaining how this quote relates to the point you're trying to make. Now, in some other cases, like, in the discussion boards we've been having, you can do digging in, where you look at the word choice, right, of the quote, right? So you might give the quote and then analyze the tone that the author is taking in that particular passage, right? They seem angry in this. They seem passive. They seem resigned. They seem in love, or whatever it is, right? And so that you might look at the figurative language and the syntax the author is using to help you define tone or whatever it is you want to do with the language. So the digging in part here is really just digging into the language that the author is using. Next, we have choosing on. This is a very silly name. Sorry, Gary. He's the one who wrote the book. But it's a really important concept because sometimes after a quote, you want to rebut what the author has said, right? In a literature course, I don't know if you would use this a lot. Maybe if you're looking at the week 5 assignment, that might be a part of it somewhere, I would think. But for the most part, I don't know if you would use it totally. But this could be good if you're maybe in a business class and you're looking at different business models and you tell us about one business model and then kind of rebut the effectiveness of it, or try to take it down a peg, so to speak. So that could be good, but only in particular situations. The jumping off one, this is very hard to do. Basically, jumping off is where you use like an inspiring quote to jump to an idea. So, for instance, you're taking maybe something that is unrelated and connecting it to the topic under consideration. This one's really hard to pull off, and I don't see it happening a lot in academic writing per se. So that's why I think if you look at this handout in terms of the follow-up section, and you can see my blue line there when I'm sort of highlighting them, the backing up and digging in are the two you're going to use in this class mainly, right? And I would think and as the authors say, you can actually do both of those in after the quote, right? You don't have to pick one of these. They're not mutually exclusive necessarily, right? And so I think in terms of this class, the backing up and the digging in are going to be probably the most useful for you. Okay. Well, that's all I really have to say in terms of this handout. I will post another handout too with this, so I'll put this there because I know a lot of you already have it, but I just want to put it there just in case you misplaced it. I'll put another handout about quote sandwiching from a different university so you can see other ways of doing it which are very similar, but the basic concept is still the same, that when you're building your sandwich, you have a lead-in that tells you how to read the quote itself, and then analysis of the quote in terms of how it relates to your overall argument or the point you're trying to make. All right? So I hope this was informative. If you still have more questions about how to integrate quotes into your research or papers or just even your discussion boards, whatever the case may be, I want to be really familiar with this format because I think it will help you be a much better and more effective writer when when it comes to writing argumentative papers and discussion posts. All right? Thank you for taking the time to listen to this. I know it's a little bit longer than normal, but, thanks for all your hard work. Bye.